Hi, everybody. Happy almost Halloween. Just really quick, if you missed class today, we finished two major things. One, we finished the notes on cell organelles, so you're going to want to stick around and listen to those and do those. And then the second thing we did is we started our coloring assignment. So I'll talk about both of those during this video today, okay? All right, let's get started. Let me share with you. So today we're going to talk about organelles that are just in plant cells, okay? So let's look at the first one. You should also have your chart open to this chart, right? Or your Google Classroom open to this chart. So far, we've already done the red part, right? You were supposed to do the blue part yesterday. So if you haven't yet, go back to Wednesday's Google Classroom and watch the video and do the blue part. And today we're going to rock the green part, okay? All right, so today we're going to look at and talk about just the organelles that are in the plant cell. And we know that plants and animals are very, very similar with a lot of organelles on the inside, right, that are the same. But there are some major differences because think about the way that plants get their food versus animals, right? Like luckily, I can just drive up to Portillo's and order a burger and those cheese fries and a chocolate milk cake shake or whatever they call it. And it just goes into my belly and that's how I get food, right? Plants, we know, have to get it from the sun and don't get it the same way. So they have a couple different organelles that are going to help them specifically as plants. So let's talk about those today. The first one is called chloroplasts. Say that with me. Chloroplasts, okay? And chloroplasts usually they're green colored, okay, on pictures. And they look kind of like the mitochondria a little bit, but they're a little bit rounder. And they kind of look like they have little stacked parts, like a little factory. Or I almost kind of think they'll look like silver dollar pancakes or discs that are stacked up, almost kind of like a little city inside of it. But that's the chloroplasts. And the chloroplasts are super important because, as we know, plants don't get their energy from eating things, right? They take their energy directly from the sun's rays, which combines with things inside of them to make their own sugar or food in a process called photosynthesis. And that's why plants are green. So the chloroplasts are really, really important because they have this pigment or chemical or dye in it called chlorophyll, and that makes the plant green, but it also helps create food for the plant. So that's what a chloroplast is. Chloroplasts are also really cool because if you think about it, during the summer and spring, plants are nice and green, right? But what happens as sunlight is less and there's less energy and food available in the fall, what happens to those nice green leaves, right? They start turning colors. So they turn red and brown and yellow and orange because the chlorophyll is not as plentiful in the leaf and they're not green anymore and they fall off and die, right? And we rake them up and jump into them. So those are the chloroplasts, super important parts of the plant cell. So let's go to our chart. And under chloroplasts, we're going to type in just the plant, right? They're just in a plant. And their job is to use the sun's energy to make food for the plant. And I'll also say it makes plants green. Okay, so take a second, stop the video if you have to type that in, chloroplast. Okay, the next one is the cell wall. And the cell wall, again, is only in plant cells. So if we look at this picture of the plant cell, you'll notice this kind of light green part that we've already talked about, layer. That's the cell membrane, right? We talked about how that lets things in and out of the cell. But an additional layer of protection in the plant cell is called the cell wall. And that's this dark green layer that's around the entire plant cell. And basically, this is really important because it helps give plants their extra shape and offers support. So I always think about celery when I crunch into celery, right? Or I break maybe a stem of a plant. Sometimes it's kind of even hard to take scissors and cut like a stem of a flower. That's because they're really rigid, right? That's the cell wall that's keeping that shape. So cell wall is this dark green part around the plant cell, and it helps offer support and give shape. So I also kind of think of like if we think about a castle in medieval times, the drawbridge, that wooden door that comes down and lets things in and out, would be like the membrane, the cell membrane. But the castle walls that surround the whole castle and the kingdom and help give the kingdom its shape and support is what the cell wall would be. So let's go ahead to our chart and write that in, or type it in, I should say. So cell wall, again, just the plant. And the cell wall's job is to offer support and protection for the plant cell. Okay? And we've got one more to talk about today. Stop your video if you need a second. The last one that we're going to talk about today, I love saying because it's just kind of fun. It sounds like the word vacuum. It's called vacuoles. So vacuoles are actually in plant and animal cells, but they're a little bit different. But vacuoles, I always kind of think of as pools. So sadly, it kind of makes me think of a summer because when I look at it, it kind of looks like a giant pool or like an in-ground pool. But if we look at this picture of the plant cell, this giant sac or blob of what looks basically blue or like water, right, is called the vacuole. And the vacuole is just a large sac that stores water, nutrients, and waste for the cell. And I always, again, think of it kind of like a pool. So if you look at the cell and there looks like there's this large sac of what kind of looks like water in it, and the cell is round or square shaped, that's definitely a clue for the plant cell, right? So that's called a vacuole. So let's go ahead and type that in. So vacuoles are large sacs that contain water, nutrients, and waste. Okay, let's look at the next picture. And I'm going to make it, if you look at the picture, here's the plant cell, here's the animal cell. Do you notice that there are vacuoles in both? But what is the big difference between the vacuole and the plant and the animal? So hopefully you notice the vacuole in the plant cell is huge, right? Plants need to store that water for making food, right? They need to have a much larger vacuole. Look at how tiny it is in the animal cell, so super tiny. Okay, so both of them have vacuoles, but the really large one is gonna be the plant cell. So if I were invited to a pool party at the plant cell's house and the animal cell's house, I would totally choose the plant cell's house because they got a rockin' big pool, right? Okay, so let's put that vacuoles as being in both. Right? And then the very last part, the last question, which I think I left up on accident, is it says technically both animals and plants have vacuoles. What's the difference? And I already typed this in and you can type it in too. The plant cell vacuole is much larger than the animal cell. So give yourself a second, stop the video if you need to. Okay, so by now you should have the red, the blue, and the green part filled out. Go ahead and turn that in. I'm going to give you some nice points for doing the notes. Okay, the second thing that we did today, you either got in class, paper copy, or you printed out, or you got it in the front of the school, but we started the coloring. So if you get your coloring sheet out, and we're going to mostly do this tomorrow in class also, but let me just take you through how you do it really quick. Basically, what you're going to do is the coloring sheet looks like this, right? There's a page of instructions and there's a page of the actual animal and plant cells. And sorry, they're a little the wrong way here, but make sure that you start by writing animal cell over the circular squishy cell and plant cell over the box or square-like cell, right? And basically all you're going to do is pick a color. So if I pick red, I'm going to just quickly shade in cell membrane, or I can color in this box that's right there to remind myself that cell membrane is going to be red. Then I look for A on the cell. Well, I know cell membrane is in plant and animal cells, so I'm going to scroll down. And where A is, just this top part here, I'm going to color in A for the plant cell. And then for the animal cell, notice how it's this top part, but it's also this whole bottom part right here. Okay, and most classes honestly got to like maybe A, B, and C, and that's all we got to. So here's the deal. Tomorrow, we're going to color and listen to some Halloween music and enjoy one another's company. So you do not need to do this for homework, but tomorrow you should have your coloring supplies and your coloring sheet ready to go so that we can just kind of have a fun, enjoyable Halloween-related day coloring in the cell. Okay, and that's it, guys. Have a great day.